Welcome, everyone. My name is Mikey Mhenna. This is a special event that we are doing in collaboration with the British Council entitled Situating Heritage and Cultural Protection Fund in Lebanon. Our special guests include David Knox, who is the British Council Country Director in Lebanon. Welcome, David. Assaad Seif, archaeologist, university professor, and UNESCO ICOMOS heritage expert with 30 years of experience and co-founder of Ṣilāt for Culture, and Joanne Farchakh, who is an archaeologist and journalist. She co-edited with Professor Peter Stone the book, The Destruction of Cultural Heritage in Iraq, winner in the 2011 James R. Wiseman Book Award. In 2005, she co-founded Biladi, an NGO dedicated to promote and safeguard heritage through training for professionals and education activities. Welcome to all of you. It's a real pleasure to have all three of you as part of this call. Let's get started with David. I'm going to ask you the first question, David, put you on the spot. The title of today's talk is Situating Heritage and the Cultural Protection Fund. Give me a sense of what those two terms mean as far as you're concerned. What is Situating Heritage and what is the Cultural Protection Fund?
Thanks, Mikey, and thanks to Assaad and Joanne for joining us, and to our audience. I'm looking forward to the conversation. Perhaps I can answer by explaining where this fits within the British Council's work and the journey that we've been on together on the work of cultural protection. So the British Council exists to build trust and understanding between the UK and other countries. And we do that through working in arts, education, and through the English language. Our programming in the arts sector has three pillars. We've been having other conversations under the CATAPULT headline, which is really about promoting creative enterprise and the benefits of cultural activities within the context of the economic benefits that brings about. We also work on cultural exchange between the UK and other countries. And I guess the third pillar within which our work on cultural heritage sits is responding to global issues, global matters. And I guess 7 or 8 years ago, the UK responded to cultural heritage in crisis and in fragility and in conflict with the terrible images of the heritage sites in Iraq and in Syria that were being destroyed under the ISIS movement. And the UK government, through the British Council and the Department of Culture, Media and Sport, responded by building a cultural protection fund to preserve and protect heritage at risk. Lebanon was a partner and a beneficiary in the fund. Maybe I guess our conversation started 6 or 12 months ago, roughly. We were reflecting on the experience of the fund operating in Lebanon, and we were trying to learn some of the lessons from the previous period. And one of my reflections, sitting here as our country director in Lebanon, was that some of the partnerships were somewhat driven by UK stakeholders, UK partners. And we wanted to rebalance the fund and its activities by, as the title suggests, situating that heritage through a period of research and building partnerships in Lebanon. So we worked with Joanne and Assaad, with Ṣilāt and Biladi, to understand the needs and priorities for cultural protection in the Lebanese context, hence situating heritage, and hence the journey we've been on over the last 6 to 9 months to understand those priorities better.
Very cool. So let me ask, since you mentioned Joanne, let me ask you, tell me a little bit about what Biladi does, sort of more broadly, and what its role was within this initiative.
Okay, hello. Well, thanks for being here, and nice to see you again, David and Assaad. So Biladi is a Lebanese NGO specialized in heritage protection and education. So in terms of protection, we work on safeguarding heritage through specific activities with special forces, with specialists, or the armed forces. So we develop special programs for emergency response, such as the Beirut blast, the unfortunate Beirut blast, where we try to take action on the ground based on the specialists for emergency response. How do you safeguard heritage, whether it's built or movable? How do you move objects? How do you take them? On the educational level, we work a lot with the university students, but also with the young students, so the youth, in terms of developing educational programs that enable them to build a very strong link with their own homeland by understanding who they are, what they come from, what's the background, how deep is their country, their land. And that is based on scientific knowledge. We're not into the foundation myth. We're not into just creating stories for stories. We're about teaching them, or at least, like we would like to say it, we train their eye to see the beauty of the heritage that they see around them. And for this, we have done field trips for more than 50,000 students. We have developed programs for refugees to introduce them to their own heritage, like Syria in My Mind. We have worked with Lebanese students from all over Lebanon to discover the archaeological sites, but also the National Museum and all around it. Our part of the project on the British Council project came in terms of doing the first, and that is a tremendously nice thing that the British Council accepted to do, which is to do a public survey. So how do the people actually see heritage? Not the professionals, not the university students, not the regular students in the classrooms, no one who has been trained on looking at it, but 400 people from the general public. How do they see it? What does my heritage mean to them? What's the relationship to it? How do they see the transmission role in it? And then we did a focus group with 100 university students. They were asked if they would like to join. So they were first come, first served. We did a workshop, a 5-hour workshops with them, introducing them to cultural heritage and asking them to assess their situation of cultural heritage in Lebanon. That was our role in this call of the British Council, trying to better understand the general public view over heritage, but also the young professionals' view, or like we'd like to call them professionals in the making, view of cultural heritage.
Thanks so much. No, that was perfect. I appreciate it. We're going to talk a lot about the survey in a little bit because I have so many questions about that. But before we go on, Assaad, I'd love to understand a little bit about what does Ṣilāt do and what your role was in the project as well.
Yes. In fact, Ṣilāt, as its name indicates in Arabic, is connections in English. And it is a new Lebanese cultural NGO that strives to bring forth new sustainable cultural opportunities to local communities, while also bringing communities closer to their culture. So it's a kind of a dialogue between cultures, communities, etc. And, you know, with the absence of a comprehensive and inclusive nationwide cultural policies, Ṣilāt aims to play a kind of a proactive role, let's say, in finding and implementing solutions and strategies that fit the Lebanese context, especially the Lebanese context, and respond to local needs. For this purpose, establishing, for example, collaborations and equitable partnerships across the cultural field is on top of Ṣilāt priorities. The example that we are discussing today is one of our aims, and it fits our aims at one of our major projects, that is a collaboration between Ṣilāt, British Council, and Biladi in order to seek solutions and try to answer questions about cultural heritage, about how CPF can be effective in helping and attending to culture in Lebanon, and how CPF can be an opportunity for Lebanese cultural heritage professionals.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit. That's a great overview. We're gonna have a lot of questions in the chat, but let me, maybe let's start, Joanne, I'm gonna come back to you for a second. Let's start with a survey, right? So whenever you're thinking about problems and solutions, a good place to start is understanding the current status quo. So give us a sense of the sort of how, why, who of the survey. You mentioned 400 people, but give us a little more information about how the survey was designed, how it was implemented, what were the key results that you found?
Okay, the idea of the survey was actually brought to us by our partner in Turkey, Ṣilāt. They are part of the British Institute in Ankara, and they conducted a survey in Turkey 4 years ago that enabled them to better understand the situation of archaeology and heritage in Turkey as general. So we picked up the idea, and they were generous enough to share with us their questions, and then we built our questions based on it. For them to share with us this experience enabled us to go much faster and further in order in selecting the beneficiaries who are, or the target group who are going to be part of the survey. And it was meant to be a target group that is random, and but picked up carefully to cover all of these, all of Lebanon. So the general public, but covering all the spaces, all of the muhafazat, based on the ratio of population. So the number will be there depending on the number of people inhabitants. And so to do the survey, the British Council gave the questions, we developed the questions, was a group of professionals and the British Council themselves. We went through them, we tried them on our friends several times before, and then we gave them to a professional enterprise that is specialized in surveys, Qualisis, who conducted the survey face-to-face. Actually, they conducted it with 400 people face-to-face. It was taking around 15 minutes per person.
What are some of the key results that you found in terms of actual, and Assaad and David, if you want to jump in, feel free to interrupt. But Joanne, yeah, what are some of the key results that you found?
Okay, so the first, it was very, very interesting to see that people are genuinely interested in their heritage. They see it part of their, I can give you the percentages if you'd like to, as long as we're going. But they're genuinely interested in what they conceive heritage, even though the distinction in heritage was not clear in their minds. Let's say that they do not see heritage like professionals see it, by dividing it into tangible and intangible and clusters, and archaeology is separate. No, for them, heritage is a whole. The most interesting part of it, for instance, is that they would like to see in heritage, is the one after this slide. They consider food to be the primarily part of Lebanese heritage. They identify the dance, the music, the theater, and the cinema as their cultural heritage. And they classify the archaeological sites, all of them together in one package, but they do not distinguish between natural sites and archaeological. So for instance, Jaita is considered for them as a site exactly the same way as Baalbek is. And that is very interesting from a professional perspective, because we would like to cluster things and put them back in places. Actually, the general public doesn't see it this way. Most of them, 92% of the population, have visited an archaeological site at least once in their life, which is very interesting and very genuine. But they see that the major role comes for transmission of heritage comes from parents and not from the government. But they give back to the government, they consider the government to be the only entity in charge of safeguarding heritage. And what was fascinating, in a country of war, where you ask people to identify the threat for heritage, and their first answer was looting. They identified the looting of the archaeological site as it being the first threat, instead of it being destruction due to a war zone or something. So
yeah.
Yes.
No, it's okay. I want to bring in Assaad a little bit. How does this tie from your perspective in terms of the role of the government and the sort of the broader sphere?
Yeah. This brings us, in fact, to the role that Ṣilāt played in this project, which is setting the conceptual framework and approaching this matter as a strategic planning dynamic or exercise, because if you remember what David said, that CPF wanted to be more effective in Lebanon as a fund. But how to be more effective? We had to really understand what are the processes of, let's say, interaction with heritage in Lebanon, how people see heritage, where we are now, what we want to have in the future, and how to get there. So in fact, these three strategic questions, which are very easily said, where we are now, what we need to do, and how to reach that, were tackled by Ṣilāt, and were tackled according to an approach that is methodologically structured around four main themes, which is the identification of heritage, how people identify heritage, how we professionals identify heritage, how we value heritage, because if we don't value a part of heritage, we don't identify it as heritage itself. So when we value something, how we protect it, because if you don't value anything, you don't protect them. Something, you don't protect it. So the protection of heritage comes within this approach of valuation and identification. And if you value heritage or a type of heritage, and you want to protect it, you want also to transmit it to future generations. And this is the main four themes. These are the main four themes that we worked on: identification, evaluation, protection, and dissemination. And we tried to approach them in a very methodological way, where we said, okay, where are the weaknesses in the evaluation process of Lebanese regarding to heritage? Why, like Joanne had said, why the results of the survey gave us this high percentage of people that consider that culinary heritage is the most important heritage. Why all these results in the public survey are getting, and they are different, so much different from the perception of professionals, as Joanne said. And this is what we were intending to understand through different activities that we did within the framework of this project, when we gathered a focus group of 21 professionals in different cultural heritage fields, tangible and intangible. And we tried to discuss about what are the issues, the matters that are important for them as professionals, and especially how to transmit the legacies of cultural heritage to future generations. And this is where, in fact, lots of discussions were raised, and lots of outcomes, interesting outcomes came out from these debates and these discussions. Namely, we heritage professionals in Lebanon, for example, we were always working alone, and we never did a really proper interdisciplinary approach in order to tackle issues in heritage. And this was one of the major outcomes that we understood from these debates, that we need to tackle heritage holistically, to tackle the problems of heritage in a wider scope between different professionals and people taking, we have to take into our, let's say, sphere, all the people that are related to heritage. This is what we call the people-centered approaches in cultural heritage. People have something to say, and they have to say it. We need to listen to them in order to bridge these gaps between professionals, the people, and their heritage. Because we have an issue that we discovered also, that we have lots of broken links between the Lebanese and their cultural heritage. And these links are broken for different reasons. We try to tackle those reasons and to see how to bridge things back and to push it forward.
Interesting. David, I want to bring you in for a second. I'm curious, from your perspective and from the British Council team's perspective, what did you and your team come away with learning, and how did that shape the way you envision this project sort of proceeding going forward?
Thanks. Well, I think as Joanna and Assaad had been suggesting, the process we've been through has had a number of benefits already and outcomes already. This bringing people together within the professionals, particularly, but also getting them to look at the data coming from the public is also an important insight that I think we've gained. It's very easy as experts to have a view on the shape of things, but perhaps missing sometimes the input of those who are the consumers and indeed the beneficiaries of projects and programs. So I think how that then, what do we do with those insights? I'm hoping to see that expressed in the project proposals that come through for the next round of applications to the Cultural Protection Fund. You know, I'll make a plug now and we'll repeat it later, but the fund is now open for expressions of interest from partners who want to prepare projects. Details are available on our website, and I would encourage the audience to go and look at that. If they've got questions, they can pose them to me and to the team. And indeed, the report, the executive summary, will be available on our website, and we will share the full findings of the report with a wide audience, so that they can see the data, they can see the priorities that have been expressed for Lebanon. If I might take a couple of things, I mean, I think you know, looking at the findings, things that interest me are the notions of how you build partnerships between different actors in the protection and indeed appreciation and use of the cultural heritage. You know, I've been very blessed to spend 4 years in Lebanon, and I've had the opportunity to go from north to south, east to west. But I'm still exploring and being introduced to new opportunities. So I think this question of awareness, how do we communicate and make people more aware of the product and the sites and the resources. And of course, this question of the different slices. So the physical sites are relatively easy, but again, I'm excited through the partnership we've had with afikra to learn about the less tangible, the literature, the other forms of heritage too, and I'm kind of interested in how we protect and support those other sectors too. I mean, whether that's through the fund or through other mechanisms.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So let's, I want to ask a question that I think must be on the minds of everyone listening now, but also the minds of many people that you surveyed. And maybe Joanne and Assaad, it'd be great for both of you to speak to this. What has the impact of the current crisis that we've been enduring in Lebanon for the last 2 years, what impact has that had on the current state of heritage protection in Lebanon? And what is the sort of outlook for the future, given the reality of our economic and political environment in Lebanon? Maybe Joanne, I'll let you start, and then Assaad, I'll let you jump in as well.
Okay, well, thank you. If we're talking about the state of how the security situation is affecting archaeological sites, the security situation can be actually very dangerous. The more we have problems, and the more the devaluation gets stronger, and that is because that's when the looting that the people were so scared of can emerge and can start taking place. Because you see, the problem with the looting is not just people not understanding the value of heritage, just the opposite. They know the value of heritage, but they also know that in a way, it's a dead object. And therefore, if they sell it to make an income, they don't feel that badly conscious about it. It doesn't hurt them that much. And people who are interested in archaeological objects, they actually always use a crisis situation to make that market rise again. So that would be one of the major fears, is the return of looting of archaeological sites. The second fear will be, of course, that the cost of maintenance is going to get extremely high, and it will not be considered at all as a priority in the terms of governmental priorities. And therefore, and when we all know that archaeological sites or objects or anything related to cultural heritage require continuous maintenance. So that will be also another very, sad thing that can emerge. The advantage of the crisis is that Lebanon is now considered as one of the countries that require funding. And in terms of funding agencies, there are multiple funding agencies who are more and more interested in terms of cultural heritage. And we all know Lebanese entrepreneurship, it's in our constitution. So people, and now that they know the topic is becoming more and more relevant and of importance, and we're going, hopefully, more and more towards a more productive economy, then I certainly hope people will start having more ideas and entrepreneurship to come and take it. And for this, I would like to add a few more sentences. After the Beirut blast, Beirut witnessed one of the biggest destruction in its history in 1 minute. It was bigger than the civil war. But Lebanese government and the Lebanese people refused for the destruction of cultural heritage and the destruction of historical houses to be part of this blast as a collateral damage, like it was portrayed. And they launched their own initiatives. The number of NGOs, the number of professionals, 40 professionals were already on the field, on the fifths, mapping, documenting, doing all the best. And now if you walk in Beirut, you can see that the historical heritage of Beirut have been saved by a huge number of architects, restorers, and engineers who took it upon themselves to safeguard their own heritage. This initiative gives so much hope. And it brings back to the fact that the Lebanese people consider heritage to be their own priority, not being a governmental priority, but they consider it to be a priority. So in a way, the situation is bad. And another way, we have to count again on people's entrepreneurship and their own will to make of their country a better vision, or a vision that looks like them, or what they want it to be like.
Yeah. Assaad, what about you? I'll have you chime in on the same question.
Yes, in fact, I totally agree. You know, in situations like we have in Lebanon, it's a kind of a very like critical moments we are passing by. If we take, for example, the basic needs for any human being to be creative, you know, you have the physiological needs and then the security needs, as Maslow's, you know, famous pyramid of needs. In Lebanon, we don't have now those two basic needs. So in terms of productivity and cultural productivity, we are way below this level of cultural productivities. People are seeking their security, their basic needs today. Nevertheless, if we consider that the actual situation is not going to last, hopefully it will not last, people like us within this project, for example, we have to think of opportunities for the future, for making a better future. And this is what also we were aiming through this project, is how to take the opportunities that we have today, the idleness through which the cultural heritage dynamics are in today, and try to build up for a better future for cultural heritage through the help, for example, of the Cultural Protection Fund. And if we develop strategies, if we now work together as cultural heritage professionals, we put the people in the center of our dynamics, and we try to build good opportunities, projects for the future by, I mean, the chance and the opportunities we have from the funds. I guess we could like hope for a better future for cultural heritage. And this is what all our project, Situating Heritage, is about. is how to make the funds an opportunity for making a better cultural heritage future. And this is what we try to tackle, try to seek ways in, and during our discussions, during the seminar, the focus group debates, Joanne by answering questions about what people need, how people see things, in order to build it for the future. And within the scope, what we discovered, and as Joanne said, I mean, the opportunities that the funds can get to Lebanese experts in heritage, like the job opportunities, are at the core of redynamizing the heritage cultural field in the future.
Amazing. I want to end with one last question. This goes for all of you, and maybe David, we can start with you. Is if we look at the region more broadly, and use the region as the sort of the track record of the region as a way to kind of predict the future. What can we learn from some of the neighboring countries who have done similar type projects, and how can that experience help us see around the corner for what might work well here and how we can see success and tackle some of these challenges?
Well, that's a good one, and a slightly difficult one. Let me pick out one neighbouring country, and I think some of the very interesting work that they have been doing, and it's at the heart of the Middle East and North Africa region, if you like, in Palestine. And I think the exploration of not just the physical assets and their preservation, but what these mean for identity and belonging, and as symbols of hope within a society. So I feel those are all things that we could share within a Lebanese context, because actually, often we think about Lebanon and things that divide people in this country, but actually this heritage that is all around us is something that is shared, and actually from which we can build senses of identity and belonging. So that would be my offering.
Yeah. Joanne or Assaad, any, I know that both of you have extensive experience in the region. Are there any tidbits of information that might help us understand where we might be going if we take the rigorous approach that both of you are advocating for?
We will be moving forward, and we will be going in the best direction possible, because not just, well, CPF grant is a grant that is dedicated to cultural heritage, but because this sector now needs, like Assaad was saying, it needs its people now more than ever. We cannot afford to lose it more than we have lost during the war and after the war in the reconstruction plans. We have seen very good results in Beirut, and I will join also Assaad in what he was saying, that it is a huge possibility for income generating, and people are creative, and that's a field where they can be even more creative. Great.
Assaad, what about you? You want to take us away before we move to the questions?
In fact, I have like two ideas that I want to express. The first is within this line of thought, like, through its general aim of protecting heritage at risk and creating sustainable opportunities for economic and social development, CPF by itself will indirectly allow for job creation opportunities, as well, of course, as capacity building and know-how build-up. But creating these job opportunities for young Lebanese, as well as experts and professionals in the different cultural heritage subsectors, is one of the major needs. I guess that by itself, this dynamic by itself, it could lift the cultural heritage sector and attract know-how existing elsewhere outside the system. And of course, it will also allow cultural heritage to benefit from a wider professional interest in Lebanon and better promotion and protection. So it is a kind of a circle of like feeding on each other, but it all needs a kick with a good funding project that allow these job creation opportunities to be launched. This is the first idea. The second idea, also, it's more on the conceptual philosophical side, but I guess now we have an opportunity to decolonize heritage in Lebanon and in the region. You know, heritage is not only for tourism or for nostalgia. Heritage is a major element that plays a major role in society and our culture, and we need to revivify it as is. So maybe this is also an opportunity today to go from these old models of tourism and nostalgia and go into the real deal of cultural heritage in our countries and try to make it at the heart of our economic regeneration.
Fantastic. Okay, so we have a few questions from the audience. Let's open it up to the questions. The first one comes from, I believe, Alina. I'm going to read them for them. There's two questions that come from Alina. The first is, are the funds primarily governmental, private, or a mix of both for the sake of understanding the influence of donor interests? And then the second question from Alina comes from is, for the survey, were the people interviewed only in Beirut, or were they surveyed from both rural and urban areas throughout Lebanon? Maybe, Joanne, if you want to start with the first one, which is a little easier to talk about, and then David, if you want to take Joanne, if you want to take the survey one, and David, if you wanted to talk about the funds.
Yeah, I'll take the survey one. The survey, actually, the questions were given all over Lebanon. It was they were divided by governorate, and they were divided based on the percentage of population. So the highest number of participants was in Mount Lebanon. For South and Mount Lebanon, it goes from Jbeil to South Mount Lebanon. And the second highest number was in the north, and then South, Bekaa, Beirut, Baalbek, El Hermel, and Akkar. So every governorate took part in the percentage of the survey by having a certain number of applicants.
Cool, great. David?
Yeah, and so from a perspective of the Cultural Protection Fund itself, it is a UK government fund. I'm not going to put a figure on it because it's just gone out of my head. But it's a sizable sum of money over a 3-year period. And I think one of the things that we are interested in, of course, is partnership and leveraging funds. So we've spoken with our counterparts from other countries and indeed national or regional funding agencies. So if proposals are submitted that have multiple sources of funding, of course, we're open to that.
Great. Okay, so now we have two questions from Miranda. I'll read them separately. And I think the first one, Assaad or Joanna, you can answer. The question is, given that agriculture is key to the success of Lebanon's culinary heritage, is the Lebanese agricultural sector lacking support? Could this be an area that partners might be encouraged to participate?
Yeah, I mean, it's a broader question. And, you know, when we tackle issues holistically, we can find solution for all the sectors. But I guess those systemic changes cannot be tackled through CPF alone, through the Cultural Protection Fund. Of course, we can have projects that can have systemic impacts, namely on the agriculture or other, let's say, sectors in Lebanon that can affect indirectly also cultural heritage. But to tackle this issue, we need a broader policy, a broader strategy that is more on the system level, more on the system level than on the individual level or targeted level of cultural heritage. But it can, the projects that we can propose for can have, of course, impact on this side, by promotion, by promoting local products, etc., etc. But to which extent these projects will have a systemic impact on agriculture as a general, I don't have the evaluation in my head now.
Can I add to that? Yes, the agricultural sector can enter. It doesn't have to enter from the field of Cultural Protection Fund or funds directly for cultural heritage. It can enter the field from agri-food. And everything that is related to agri-food industries and agri-food funds can take into consideration the provisions, the MUNE, the preparation of traditional food, and for that, all the agricultural level and rural heritage, because that is badly needed to continue producing the MUNE in a traditional way.
Great. Okay, we'll take one last question from Abdullah. The question is, will the reports be available online, and will this recording be available for us, including the presentation? So I'll answer both of those real quick. So the report will be online. It will be on the website, as well as I believe the websites of both Biladi and Ṣilāt. So you can find those there. This recording will absolutely be online. It will be on our YouTube page, as well as our podcast. As of tomorrow. And then the last question from Abdullah is, and it would be interesting to see how the Lebanese migrants view cultural heritage versus local citizens living in Lebanon. Are other citizens of different nationalities living in Lebanon included in the survey? So Joanne, how about you take us away with that, and we'll end it there.
Well, we were very lucky to be able to have a survey in the first place. And that's because, very honestly, David and Markish decided to believe in the importance of the survey. It's the first time that the survey is conducted in this time. So no, we could not do it earlier than that. It was conducted in January of 2022. So just a few months ago. We're still in the same year. And it would be great to know how the diaspora view their heritage, especially when they are second or third generation or immigrants. And it will be great to see what role heritage can play in linking the diaspora and the children or the immigrants to their own homeland. Well, that's a great idea for the next project.
Okay, great. So we're going to wrap up now. David, just for to end on a final note, I think you mentioned that applications are open now. People presumably can go to the British Council website to find that information. Is there anything else that people should know before we wrap up?
Well, I'm going to add two points. I mean, one is that we will be running information sessions for people who are interested in making applications. So watch our social media, our website for updates on that. And if you've got an idea that you're brewing in your mind or in discussion with partners, then feel free to contact my office, and I'm going to name check Mark Muakesh, my colleague who's leading this work. And I just want to make clear that we are not involved in the decision-making process. So the actual applications are kind of sent to a panel, and it's not me or my team that make those decisions. So that's why we're able to support people who are interested in applying. I hope there's no conflict of interest there. So feel free to be in touch with Mark or me and the team here.
Okay. Well, this has been a really enlightening conversation. It's a pleasure to be able to speak with three people who have three different vantage points on a very important topic. I've left a feedback link in the chat to let us know how this went. As I mentioned at the beginning, this will go up on YouTube and up on the podcast tomorrow, so feel free to send it to folks who may have missed today's talk. And Joanne, Assaad, and David, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, everyone, enjoy your day or evening wherever you are, and we will see you next time.